everyone. Today we're going to continue our investigations on life sciences and living organisms. Past few weeks we've learned all about seeds and how we can have seeds sprout. We've learned about plant requirements for growth, and we've even investigated plant leaf surfaces. Today I have this beautiful plant next to me. It's an orchid plant, but it's not just stems and leaves. There's something special about this plant. Look at those beautiful flowers. This is a special flowering plant. Now if we take a closer look at the inside, we see something special. The inside is where all of the pollen is held. And that pollen is so important to be able to have future orchid plants. And here is another orchid, different color, different size, but again, similar because they hold the pollen on the inside. Now the pollen, I told you, is held on the inside of the flower, and that pollen needs to travel to other flowers, near and far. What are some ways that that pollen could travel? Wind, fast-moving air, can move that pollen onto other flowers and have them pollinate. But the major way that pollination happens is through animals. Birds, bees, moths, and other insects. The pollinator that we're going to focus on today is the bee. Here I have just a model of a bee in front of me. And we know that the bee is an insect because it has 6 legs. Bees are insects, and they fly from flower to flower, collecting nectar and collecting pollen. Now the nectar is their sugar supply. They drink up all the nectar, and they collect the pollen in their pollen baskets, in their legs, and all over their furry bodies, bring it back to the hive, and they use that pollen to make honey. Now, as they're flying from flower to flower, some of the pollen that they pick up will drop off onto other flowers. They are unintentional pollinators. They don't mean to do it, but they help us. Without bees, we wouldn't have flowers and fruits. They are the main source of pollination, along with other insects. The honeybee is responsible for making honey, and they make honey to be able to consume it for themselves. This is their food. Here I have a jar of honey made by honeybees, and you'll see on the inside is the honeycomb. These are the hexagonal structures made of wax. And that wax is also produced by the bees themselves. The bees make the wax, they build the honeycomb, and they make the honey that goes inside. These honeycombs also serve as a home for their young. Now, a few fun facts about honeybees. There's 3 main types. There's the queen, there's the male, and the female. The queen stays in the hive and is responsible for laying eggs. The males, also called the drones, help the queen bee lay those eggs. And then there's the female bees, the worker bees. The female bees are the ones that are out collecting the pollen, collecting the nectar, bringing back all of their supplies, and again, back to work, busy making those waxy honeycombs. Now, we also know something about bees that we don't like, their stinger. Well, some interesting facts about their stinger as well. The male bees don't have a stinger at all, so they're not able to sting. But the bees that we usually see around us are probably not male bees. The male bees rarely leave their hive. The female bees do have a stinger, but their stinger is barbed. That means that they can only sting a human one time, and after that, they die because that stinger is connected to all of their intestines. As they sting, that barbed stinger goes and gets stuck inside of the host, inside of the person that they just stung, and all of their intestines come out, which forces them to die. Now that might not make a lot of sense, but honeybees don't mean to sting other humans. Their stinger is meant to sting other insects, and they can do that multiple times without dying. The queen, however, does not have a barbed stinger. Her stinger can sting a human multiple times and she will not die. Pretty fun facts, pretty cool to learn about bees and their structures. Today, we're going to focus on the bee's ability to pollinate. This is just a model of a bee. You could imagine it being much smaller, and we could see it going inside and pollinating different flowers. Let's watch this video that I was able to capture inside of my grandmother's backyard, where I was able to see honeybees going inside, taking pollen and moving on to another flower. How amazing was that video? We could see the bees going inside, going and spending time drinking nectar, collecting pollen, coming out and moving on to the next flower. Amazing. Nature, how amazing that is. It's incredible how nature works. Now, today's lesson, we are going to talk about something I love: vanilla. You may have used this while you are baking. Vanilla extract. I buy this from the market, but this little bottle costs a lot. And today, we're going to talk about why vanilla is so expensive. Vanilla is famous for its flavor and fragrance and has been passionately sought after for hundreds and hundreds of years. Vanilla originally grew in the lowland tropical forests of southern and eastern Mexico, Central America, and northern South America. The tribes living in northern regions were the first to incorporate vanilla into daily life, using it as an incense and possibly as medicine. In the early 1800s, European explorers began to take cuttings off vanilla plants back home with them, hoping to have what they had found in the Americas. However, the unexpected occurred when the vanilla plants grew and flowered, but did not produce the prized seed pod. The reason was not known until decades later, when it was discovered that the vanilla flower was pollinated exclusively by the Melipona bee. This tiny bee was native to Mexico, and without it, there was no vanilla. A solution was found with the discovery of hand pollination, a scary task, but one that was soon perfected. Orchids cannot self-pollinate because there is a flat plant tissue that separates the male and the female parts, the anther and the stigma. Normally, a bee pollinator would crawl inside the flower, and in order to get out, it would break an important part of the flower, causing the flower to be pollinated. All of this must be done now with hand pollination. The specific bee pollinators of the vanilla orchid have become nearly extinct. As a result, wherever vanilla is grown, including its country of origin, hand pollination must be used. The vanilla industry works continuously to fulfill the world's craving for this yummy flavor we know as vanilla. Here I have a bottle of vanilla extract. You may have seen this in lots of baking products or even your favorite ice cream, vanilla ice cream. Now today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a model of a hand pollinator. What I have here in front of me are a model of 2 vanilla plants. Now here is my flower, the petals, and the internal part, the very small part where the pollen is held. Let's go over the materials I can choose from. Now, some different items that I thought of that would be great for a hand pollinator are these tongue depressors, chopsticks, pipe cleaners, straw, cotton balls, and the clothespin. Which materials do you think would be best to build my hand pollinator? The first thing I thought of was this tongue depressor, and I wanted to try this to see, well, it won't even fit inside. It is too big. This is like the other bees that are too big to pollinate the vanilla plant. I can't use this. Well, what about a chopstick? Would that work? It's nice and long, and oh, it does fit. My straw is nice and long, and it too is skinny enough that it can fit. The pipe cleaner, also skinny enough to reach inside. The clothespin, nope, too fat to fit inside, but maybe I can use this in my model in another way. And I have the cotton balls. Well, the cotton balls are too big, but I can cut them. I can make them smaller, but their problem is that they are not long enough. I have to sit and come up with a plan and a design of how I think my hand pollinator should look like. Now I have 3 possibilities that I could use in my pollinator. One is wood, one is plastic, and one has this cloth-like material, furry and fuzzy. Which one do you think would be best for pollination? If I look at my bee, remember what I told you. The bee is really, really hairy and furry all over, and that pollen sticks to the fur and the hair all over the bee's body. Does that give you a hint? Yep, that's right. The pipe cleaner is probably going to pick up the most amount of pollen. Before I get started building, I'm going to draw my design. And I'm going to make sure to use labels. Here is my drawing of my design. What I'm going to do is take my pipe cleaner I realized my pipe cleaner is a little wobbly and not strong, but I thought I could make it stronger by inserting it into a straw, and now it's not as wobbly. It's a lot stronger, but it still has the furry tail. And what I'm going to do is make a little loop. Kind of like a spoon. And I'm going to take a small piece of cotton and make it even furrier. And then finally, I thought to be able to make it longer and hold on to it as well, I'm going to add the clothespin at the very end. Now we're going to test and see how my hand pollinator works. Now the goal is to get as much pollen as we can from inside the flower, deep inside the flower. And I'm going to use my hand pollinator, and I'm just going to transfer it onto this red piece of paper and see how much we were able to collect. And you can see it is long. It is long enough to reach into a very, very tall plant. And now I'm going to tap, 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 and oh, wow, look at that. There is a whole lot of pollen. And if I tap, I can get even more. Wow. Look at all the pollen that I was able to transfer. Now this is not real pollen. I have used a little bit of baking soda just as a model for pollen. Let's go over what we did today. We were engineering a hand pollinator for the vanilla bean plant. The reason we have to do a hand pollinator because the bees that pollinated this plant are now extinct. Our honeybees are way too big and they won't fit inside. To be able to pollinate the vanilla bean plant, they are now all hand pollinated. Remember when I said it's so expensive? Well, that's why it's so expensive. It is a lot of work to pollinate these plants. What I did is I used pipe cleaner, straw, clothespin, and cotton ball, and I tested my product to see if I would be able to collect pollen, baking soda, which I called pollen today. And I did. Very, very simple engineering design. Not a lot of material, not hard to find materials. I was able to hand pollinate my plant. Now what I want you to do is go around your home, find similar items, recycled items, anything that you may have, and build your own hand pollinator. You can do it the way I did, using test tubes. I made a little mock flower, or you can come up with your own way. Use your imagination and get creative. Test your hand pollinator, but make sure you have a design first. And once you have a design and you have built your hand pollinator, you test it. And remember, you can always improve it. You can always make it better. How do you think I could make this even better? Go ahead, give it a try. Good luck and have fun.